Okay, let's do a demo.
When I start the software, it asks me which EHR system to use. For testing, we used a set of publicly available test and demonstration EHRs. For the demo today, I am selecting the COVID-19 CTIA demo system. I can either get or select the subjects based on a SNOMED CT code for a disease or from a FHIR research study resource, which essentially represents an electronic protocol. For the demo, I will select a research study. This is our study definition for our COVID-19 study, so I copy-paste that. It then generates a list of all our patients in the study. I can now choose between all observations found for these subjects or select a set of line codes of tests for these subjects. In the former case, the system will try to categorize each test into an SDTM domain. I'll take all observations. For each subject, it retrieves the data from the EHR server using the FHIR API and RESTful web services. When this is done, the system asks me whether I would like to standardize quantitative data to SI or conventional units. This applies to SD-RES-N variables. This is made possible through a new RESTful web service developed by us and deployed by the National Library of Medicine NLM. I select to standardize to SI units. Similarly, for the VS domain, I can standardize to metric units for VS SD-RES-N. After having done so, the system generates the DM dataset. It now also has datasets. Okay, now that we have the datasets, let's visualize them. For that we use the open source Smart Submission Dataset Viewer. The viewer has some interesting options, like bringing back supplemental qualifiers back to their parent datasets. We also want to use RESTful web services for obtaining line code information. And I didn't say that yet, we are using the CDISC dataset XML standard format, which allows us, for example, to embed FHIR source records into the SDTM records. This is not possible at all when using XPT format. Okay, let us start loading. We could already now load subsets, for example based on category, but I won't do that now. Here is a view of the sub-VS dataset. But if we go to the VS dataset, we also see that the supplemental qualifiers can be visualized as additional columns. And here is the DM dataset. And the CM dataset. And here is the MB dataset, which was generated using the new LOINC MB for COVID-19 mapping. When I put the mouse over the LOINC code, I get all the information I need to understand what the LOINC code means. And here is the MH dataset, medical history. Also here, we used the SNOMED CT code to populate MHD code. And the vital signs dataset. Let us now have a look at the RELREC. When I select a record and then click Ctrl R, I get more information about the relationship. And when I then navigate to the CM dataset or the MH dataset, the records are automatically selected. And when I put the mouse over Use Subject ID, a narrative extract of the source FHIR record is displayed, as we embedded the FHIR record into the SDTM record.
Here is a snapshot of such an automatically generated SDTM dataset, with visualization in the open source Smart Submission Dataset Viewer. We do not generate SAS transport datasets, as that is outdated technology and has no future. Instead, we use modern CDISC dataset XML format, as it has none of the disadvantages of the SAS transport format. Currently, also a similar JSON format is being developed to counteract the FDA objections about file sizes. SDTM submissions using dataset JSON or packed dataset XML have much smaller file sizes than the inefficient SAS transport 5 or 8. Furthermore, JSON and XML are ideally suited for use with APIs and RESTful web services. SAS transport isn't at all. Some conclusions, future work and recommendations. We have proved that SDTM datasets can be generated on the fly and within minutes, starting from electronic health records, when using pre-coordinated LOINC codes and their mappings to CDISC controlled terminology. We also showed how easy standardization to either SI or conventional units is, using public RESTful web services, when UCOM notation for units is used. This is one of the many reasons why CDISC should deprecate its own units list and completely move to UCOM. A limiting factor currently is that we still need LOINC to CDISC mappings. Although we do already have a lot of them, we are still extending these. It is a lot of work though. But isn't it ridiculous that we need to do all these mappings, as the LOINC code already provides all the necessary information and is the only real identifier of the test? Smart viewers can also easily display the details of each of the LOINC codes to the reviewer. Shouldn't we be allowed to submit SNOMED CT codes and terms for results, rather than mapping results to CDISC CT? But CDISC and even the SAS transport format do not allow this, for example, as a test code is not allowed to start with a number, and LOINC and SNOMED codes do. HL7 has recently started the Vulcan project, but we must take into account that a few people are already far ahead of what the Vulcan project team demonstrated during the last HL7 Connectathon. The good news is that Fuse has asked us, together with a few other visionary people, to participate in the Vulcan project on their behalf. So this work may soon flow into the Vulcan project. Furthermore, the CDISC FHIR project, financed by CDISC and performed by Lloyd Mackenzie, will formalize the relations between FHIR resources and SDTM domains and variables. It does, however, not solve the semantic problems. As HL7 FHIR has more and more resources specific for clinical research, the question arises about the future of electronic submissions to the regulatory authorities. Is Fire intrinsically a better choice for submissions too? It has a lot of advantages, like less information loss, is suitable for use with distributed data, and is extremely well suited for use with APIs. All these would make it possible to come to real rolling reviews, meaning that a data point becomes available for the reviewers almost immediately after it was captured. On the other hand, reviewers want tables. Tables are fine as views on data, but they are not as the underlying data model. So the question arises whether a best of both worlds is possible. In the next months and years, we want to concentrate on whether such a best of both worlds is possible, and come with proposals and explore them in prototypes and demonstrations. We do, however, need to realize that such transport, whether 5 or 8, is a real showstopper for any innovation. We also must start rethinking SDTM, as each new version is a patch on a prior version, which is a patch on a prior, and so on. Within the clinical research community, we must really stop reinventing the wheel. A typical example of that is that we even still refuse to allow UCOM notation for units in submission, which is much better than our own list of units, which even does not support unit conversions. Many of us still believe that HL7 Fire is the enemy, or believe that it is not suitable for clinical research. I strongly believe it is suitable. And we must really stop trying to frantically keep medical terminologies like SLOINC, SNOMED CT and NCBI out of the door of clinical research. Okay, time now for the Rotten Tomatoes, usually designated as Q&A. Thank you.